All right. Um, Thank you so much, Josh and the Ty, for putting this together. This panel, we're going to be discussing real utility and real world utility and go beyond the hype of the Bitcoin blockchain, digital assets, and AI realm. So I'm really excited because I'm a huge fan of talking in pragmatic terms into like the real impact that these technologies have, and not just these concepts that are very hard to relate to. So I think before we get started, let's do a quick round of introductions for the people on the panel. We could start over there.
Hi, I'm Marta Belcher. I'm the president of Filecoin Foundation.
Hi, I'm Melody. I'm one of the co-founders of Spartan Group. We are an Asia-based fund and advisory group. I also came in from being a tech founder and before that in investment banking and Goldman before. So have seen both TradFi and tech, and now in a post-narrative use case. Yeah, elected to talk about that today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Mee. I'm the head of partner development, VC, and investment relations at Near Foundation. Near is a highly scalable layer 1 blockchain. We are a blockchain for AI, focused on really developing the infra and the development within the space. We have over 50 million monthly active users, so one of the most widely used chains. And really excited to talk today about, I guess, the adoption, real world use cases, AI, and how that all fits together. All right. Thanks, guys.
Hello, Paul Rapino with Hedera. We are working all the time with our governing council on AI, so this is a great time to get together. We also have our partners I'll talk about in a little bit, but glad we could be over here.
Brilliant. And I'll give a little background of what we do at Ledin. So Ledin is a Bitcoin-backed lending company. So we issue dollar loans to people that have Bitcoin and don't want to sell it, and they'll go and do all sorts of interesting things in the real world, which we'll get into. But let's get right to it. And I think the main question I had for you guys to start this off is, walk us through some of the real tangible applications that you're seeing from these technologies in the real world. Like how is your technology, or what has been your experience on how digital assets, AI, or intersection between the two is actually improving people's lives, whether that's at the personal level or a professional level? We can start the other way around.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So 2 years ago, it was a conversation that just started coming together at Davos and others, that AI and blockchain can actually work together. One of the biggest challenges in AI is that the data is random and you can't control it. One of the biggest opportunities that crypto brings to the table is the cryptography to secure that data and move it across the workflow. The work we've been doing, you've maybe seen it through Equity Lab and NVIDIA, Intel, Dell, putting the technology into the chip, into the actual workflow, and securing that data across start to finish, on how the end user is going to see that data, and how the company that owns the data is going to have consistency in how that appears.
That's very interesting. So just to regurgitate or repeat what you said, is it really that it's helping the AI information flow become or move from one end to another in a sort of safe, encrypted way and be ingested by the receiver?
Correct. So workflow starts, at point A. It's ingested. In this case, Equity Lab AI governance is what it's called, built on Hedera. Takes it through the workflow steps and then to the end user. And the governance, what they call AI governance, is the actual service that's being provided to that use case.
Very interesting. We can keep going down. Mark.
Well, I actually think for the AI kind of the use cases, I think we're still in the discovery phase, just generally speaking across the market, right? Even you can argue within blockchain, everyone's still trying to figure it out. But what have we established already? I think it's pretty clear what Bitcoin, having some sort of, it's not going away relevancy of the point of it's a store of wealth and value. And, I think most obviously within blockchain, what that not many people would argue with me on is payments, remittance, stablecoin, in terms of those payment types, right? So now, adding on the AI layer and kind of what it looks in the future is, I think it's pretty interesting. So Near was actually founded as an AI company by Ilya Poloshukin. It was founded in 2017, And, Ilya was one of the original co-authors of the Transformers paper, Attention is All You Need, right? And that's the T in kind of the ChatGPT. Now, the idea was that in the future, you're going to require kind of lots of, I guess, high scalable speed in terms of transferring, whether it might be information, kind of like what Paul mentioned, or payments or things across globally. And I think it's pretty clear for us, at least, kind of what we look at the end game is that it's going to be a pretty agentic world. Each of us is going to have an agent. They're going to be helping and executing, things about our daily lives. They're going to be helping us execute trades or transactions or buying groceries or buying things that we need around the house. Now, the question is, do we want all of that data and information to be controlled within, let's say, a centralized company like OpenAI or Facebook or Google, or do we want to be in control of that and being able to manage and decide how we utilize that? Currently, everyone uses social apps, and we already know they know a lot about us. But take that to the next level, and if it's within a AI piece, or then they're able to execute things on that, that's kind of scary, right? And so I think that's kind of what we're really excited about in terms of building and the value of the blockchain piece, because turning it back into where that value is it can be more private, it can be more secure, and you can be in more control of all of that aspect, right? And that's kind of the three pillars, which I can talk about later, of kind of what we're building and kind of how we're being able to own and manage that.
Brilliant. Well, I'll have more to ask in my follow-on question, but let's keep it going. Yeah.
Sure. I can give us an example that we're building in-house at Spartan. First of all, everybody on our team use extensively using AI for research, of course. From one of these bigger tech companies. So what we're building in-house is very application-driven, of course. One is to use AI to solve a problem for projects, because what we're seeing is going to be a 10x of growth of these live coders. They're going to be 10x growth of new ideas and new teams and projects applying for funding, getting grants or hackathons. From all the conversations we've had with all these grant providers or hackathon organizers, they have to sift through thousands of applications, right, to even know where to spend the money. So we're creating kind of the LinkedIn kind of for projects. They create a profile, upload everything they have, and then we create hundreds of templates to whatever projects, to whatever the grants they need to apply. So it's kind of really simplifying that workflow. Are we inventing new AI? No, but we are really using AI to serve crypto companies and crypto protocols. And another area we're using AI is on prediction markets, because we want to create a prediction market around projects, metrics, and valuation. So basically, if I hit a certain milestone, can consumers, retail actually can bet against whether I'm going to hit these milestones? And also, can I deploy agents to do research around, whether I'm going to achieve certain, milestones based on the metrics that I have, the code that I build. But the challenge is having human do it, especially for long tail assets, is very expensive, and there might not be enough liquidity. But deploying agents, right, to do this kind of things can be actually much more efficient. So we're achieving skills and they're not possible, before agents, right? So very specific examples. Is it very crypto AI in the sense that, decentralization? No. But I do think these are applications that I can see we use today. Very, very useful. But I have a lot more examples. There's some portfolio companies that we have that I think are very useful today, that is serving crypto industry with AI, that I can, we can talk about it later. Yeah. But that's the two things that we're building in-house, for ourselves as well. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'm actually a huge fan of prediction markets, and it's been fascinating to see how I don't even go to FedWatch anymore to look at the next rate cut predict. I go to Polymarket, and so it's become my go-to source for all types of data. It's great to see that's only going to get more accurate and more active. What about you?
All right. I'm going to give you 4 examples of where I think AI and crypto actually make sense. There are more, but here's 4. So the first is payments, because when it comes to, an AI going out and actually needing to transact in the world, that AI isn't necessarily going to have a bank account. And so it absolutely makes sense that AI needs to use crypto, right? It absolutely enables AI in a way that, regular payment systems just can't. So that's the first one. The second one is identity verification. So there is a reason that Sam Altman was working at the same time on OpenAI and also WorldCoin. And leaving aside whether I think WorldCoin is good or bad or whatever else, and privacy implications, the reason that he was doing both of those at the same time is because in building AI, or at least this is my conjecture, in building AI, he realized that in the future, it's going to be very, very hard to tell with whether you're interacting online with someone who's a real person or some sort of, AI agent. And so being able to actually verify people's identity and sort of proof of humanness, which is what WorldCoin does, is another important aspect where crypto and AI actually make sense. The third is, I think, verification of sort of the provenance of data that's used for training sets. In the Filecoin network, which is where I work, we have several applications that do that kind of work. And then the fourth is decentralized compute. So in the Filecoin network, we have a decentralized file storage network that creates an alternative to AWS, Google Cloud, sort of storage companies, right? And I think in AI, equally important is decentralized compute, because it's such a compute intensive thing that if only the largest companies can actually afford compute, then you're in a place where you really don't have, we've sort of replicated the problems we have with today's internet, where we just are living our lives through a handful of corporations. So I think for decentralized AI to work, you also need decentralized compute. And again, in the Filecoin network, we have projects that are building decentralized compute on top of the Filecoin network.
That's brilliant. I'll give two examples from our business just briefly, because I really love what this technology has enabled. So number one is as I mentioned, we do Bitcoin back loans. So we take people's Bitcoin and we issue them $1 loan. At Ledin, we can take an application from Madrid or from Medellin, and we can treat that client in the same manner, offer them the same interest rate, push the loan in the same speed. And that wasn't possible. There was no asset in the world before Bitcoin that any lender could take and basically treat borrowers uniformly, no matter where they were. So that's a very one that's very near to me. And the other one is stable coins, the way people are using them to bypass banks that they don't trust or don't want to use. At the beginning, a lot of our disbursements, like a fraction of our disbursements, were in stable coins, like up to 5%. And we've seen it go from 5 to 15 to 20 to 25 to now 50. And the trend is super clear. And people love using these, especially outside the United States and Canada, where banking is a lot more challenged and you have a lot less trust on your financial intermediaries. So those two are very near and dear to me. But beyond where we are today, what excites you guys about these technologies, one, two, or both, in the next 1 or 2 years? How do you think this plays out?
Yeah, actually, great insights from all of the panelists. So I'll build on a couple of things. First of all, you asked, what's real today? Well, I think there's a user experience that's us as a consumer, and then there's a business use case. So those are two different, but they learn from each other. And we've seen that in all the different cycles of technology. What excites me is that what we're seeing in DeFi and kind of the financial markets is going to continue to move into other markets as we tokenize things. And like Marta said, agents that are decentralized are going to have to manage those. What excites me, number one, we are working with some of the top SIs right now who have tested our technology over the last 2 years and are now building that into their workflow. So what that means is they're going to put the blueprints together, the go-to-markets, the thinking about how the projects are used in their end user experience, and then take those to their customers to actually sell it. So as the technology takes a step back, we don't want to be in the front. Nobody's going to think AI is better because there's blockchain. They're going to think AI is better because it's better and it's trusted. So what excites me is that we are taking a step back, and we haven't all said blockchain every other sentence like the last 2 years,
Fair enough. Mark.
So the question was, what's what do you expect for the next 2 years, or what do you?
What do you expect and what are you excited about? Yes.
So from the blockchain, because I feel like we're kind of overlapping between or just bunching together blockchain and AI, which I actually think they're completely separate in a way.
Yeah.
Right. Well, for the blockchain side, I think seeing this growth and regulatory direction in which we're having here, not here, but within the U.S. and seeing this more adoption, I think that's really exciting because then it really opens up the floodgates of maybe more capital, more products, more institutions to really come in and really change that. So why is that interesting? Well, I think it brings way more legitimacy. And from that standpoint, you're able to really utilize the true point of why people utilize the blockchain itself, which was kind of what we said earlier. Maybe it was payments, maybe it was remittance, maybe it was stable coins, things like that. And one thing that, after being, been in here for 3 years, being, doing a lot of BD historically, and one thing you realize is people don't really care about chains, just generally speaking. Users don't really care what chain things are built on. All right. Builders definitely don't care. So it's more of the value you're getting. So I can give an example. Most developers, for example, don't really care if they're utilizing Google Cloud or AWS. They just want things to be reliable, cost effective, and they can run their business, right? And so that's why, we kind of at Near kind of forced all this last year, and we had a big push on the kind of the chain abstraction point, which is really like a cross-chain execution layer. So what that means is that we remove that element, right? We're removing the point like, oh no, only build on Near, but it's more of, cool, we want blockchain to be more adopted. We want blockchain to be utilized. And so how does this relate to actually the AI piece? Well, in the future, we're expecting tons of agentic transactions, like everyone has their own agents. And well, I think there's a few things you need, right? One, you need a highly scalable blockchain that can manage trillions of transactions, right? So, our roadmap for that is we kind of achieved the original ETH 2.0 roadmap for sharding. We went from 1 shard to 4 shards to 6 shards to 8. This week, actually, we announced an update that made our block time 600 milliseconds. And typically our finality is 2 block times, so that's around 1.2. That makes it, pretty fast. But in terms of the cross-chain side, is that, agents, depending on what you have in your wallet, might not just be on Solana or might not just be on ETH or EVM, right? It might be Bitcoin. It might be Ripple, as we were speaking. And so they need to be able to communicate and really quickly be able to, execute cross-chain execution aspects. And so that's one layer that it's live now. We have a few partners that have announced publicly of, one that's integrated, one's integrating. Infinex is now live. You're able to utilize their site and do natural, native Bitcoin swaps, native Ripple swaps and things like that. And Kyber Swap's going to be doing that as well, right? And so I think that's kind of what I'm excited about is more true adoption, more utilization, more capital flows. And from that perspective, it kind of strengthens and proves the fact that of everyone here that's building is that we're all in the right direction at least, right? And everyone's going about it the different routes. No one knows who's doing the right route because there's never a right answer. Like we'll see you guys later and we can discuss that as well, right? So I think that's kind of what I'm pretty excited with the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's definitely a plethora of views, and I think that's what makes this space so exciting. It's like everybody has a different view, and we're all in it together and learning from each other. So like I was telling you before this panel, I don't necessarily partake in the DeFi space. That doesn't mean that I don't pay attention and I don't think what's happening there is exciting. And we can take learnings from that and what's working there to bring it into our model. And then similar, there's a lot of cross-pollination.
It doesn't mean you don't support either, exactly. Right? It just means like maybe you're not familiar or that's not part of your circle that you really keep in touch with, right? And I think that happens to a lot of us here as well. I think we're all really busy in our scope, in our niche, but it means, as a community, actually, I think the Web3 ethos is something that we're battling against centralization from the future steps. So
just to build on that, what excites me, you reminded me of this. 2 years ago at Consensus, there was 1 or 2 sessions on AI and blockchain. What's that going to look like? And a lot of the panic in the room was, oh no, my job is going to be irrelevant because I'm in blockchain and AI is everything. It's a shiny object. But most of the chains originally step back and say, okay, this is a great problem for us to solve. And now here we are talking as a group around solutions, that this is now part of the business. It's built in. It's going to get better and better. But that really excites me in terms of where we are from just 2 years ago.
No, for sure. The speed at which this is moving is it's very hard to keep up with.
Yeah, I can mention one idea. I think it's very, like for me, it's one of the most important problem to solve. It's actually, I mean, it doesn't come from me, but one of our portfolio is building it. It's really, well, I think blockchain is a truth engine, right? And I think AI actually is only as good as the data you feed it. So AI could be very biased, it could be poisoned. And based on the current world of political and divided opinions, like how do I know, whether the OpenAI results give me are actually true or unbiased or even like align with my value. So I think actually, like we watched recently, like I think Elon Musk had an interview, and he said, I think somebody asked him, "Man, what is the most important thing you can contribute to a human being?" And he actually said, "It's the truth of AI. Like I want to create AI that really represent the ultimate truth." And I think he actually, it was funny, he asked a question on Grok, and then he asked Grok, like, oh, OpenAI is doing this, what can XAI do? And Grok said, oh, XAI should build the universal truth engine, which means there got to be someone who can build a network that can collect data, verify data, and somehow rank data. So for us to all really enjoy the best and most truthful AI, and that we all can trust, the world can trust, not just American can trust or China can trust. So I do think blockchain is a perfect infrastructure. So we can design this mechanism to allow this universal truth engine to exist. And I don't think it should be owned or done by corporates or individuals. Even Elon or Sam say, oh, we're open source, but ultimately these models are not, and we don't know where they source the data from. So I think it's a very difficult thing to build, but ultimately really is, like for me, the most important thing to get it right, because AI is just too important. And we owe it to, our next generation to create a true and unbiased AI. Yeah.
That's a feat. I mean, to your point, ever since these models and LLMs started popping up, everybody calls out a bias on this one for that, a bias on that one for that. So getting to this unbiased AI, I don't even know how you would go about solving that problem from a technical perspective, but it's super interesting to me.
Yeah, one of our portfolio companies is tackling it, Chaos AI. I think the founder Omar wrote a lot about code console for AI or AI console. How do you design, how do you pull data or results from all different LMs, and how do you rank it? How do you incentivize people to provide provide the right source and rank it? And I think that could be a way to do it, but it's still takes a while to figure out. I think we call them like the truth oracle. Like it's ultimately a data problem. But I mean, people are working on it, right? And then I think with Elon talking about it, there will be like more lights shine on it. So I think we'll see some solutions, especially on blockchain soon. Yeah.
So some things I'm excited about. Actually, first to just build on what you just said, because I think it's a really important point. One of the things that is really cool about Filecoin is that it allows you to cryptographically verify that data wasn't tampered with. And I think that becomes very important when you have, a lot of images, videos out there, and you really want to be able to prove that those are not AI generated. These are actually genuine photos or videos of what happened in the real world. And one example of that, you mentioned Equity Labs earlier, but, there have been actually like evidence of war crimes that have been stored on the Filecoin network to cryptographically prove that this isn't AI generated content. This is content that's real. And we also in the Filecoin network have a couple of things I'm really excited about, which are partnerships with AI companies like SingularityNet and Bagel, where, AI companies are really storing their data sets on the Filecoin network, which I think is really very different than storing it on sort of in your usual centralized way.
That's very cool. I mean, the conversations, I have a lot more questions, but we're not going to get through them because we only have a few minutes left. Personally, I mean, I follow, in my world, I follow Bitcoin pretty closely and stablecoins pretty closely. I'm really excited about this sort of convergence that seems to be happening around sovereigns, corporates, and privates of, storing the Bitcoin, holding it, keeping it as a reserve, and putting in the regulation and the instruments to do so, like the ETFs. And also, I am cautiously optimistic about the Genius Bill and the regulatory efforts in the U.S. for stablecoins, like repeal of SAB 121. I think banks getting involved is going to help everyone. I think they're actually going to be a tailwind for the space, not a headwind. But yeah, I guess to close it off, where do you guys see the biggest opportunities to accelerate progress in your particular verticals, and what do you see as the biggest blockers or challenges over the next few years that we should tackle as an industry?
Well, in most technologies, especially in AI, there's three barriers. There's people. Can they keep up? Can they learn? There's cost. And then there's trust, like we're talking about. And the more we can validate the trust piece of it, and the more we can train the people, and the technology will get better, the costs will go down. And as that happens, we'll start seeing better adoption. So I'm just looking forward to knowing we know what most of the barriers are, and we can get through some of them. So we got a lot of work to do, but I think we're going to be in good shape.
And where do you think we can move faster?
Enterprise uses. There's a lot of hesitancy on how they can use it and be certain with it, but making an enterprise move fast is not easy.
Yeah.
So, but they learn from the consumer. They learn from the user, the end user, and they're seeing it every day of how it's being used, right? But they also are very cautious because of the regulation and some of the other issues. So,
okay. I think it's working right now. So I think my biggest concern is really how fast just development is in the centralized space. I mean, if you look at even the folks at, let's say, Open, DeepSeek comes out and it just destroys, and the market's scrambling to figure out what's actually going on, right? And I think the biggest difficulty within the decentralized market is that everyone's kind of in their own lane versus having one single point of, you know what, we need this, we need that. And that's kind of my thought. If they develop so quickly and get so much more adoption, they have their first mover's advantage, they get everyone utilizing it, then what we're building here probably might not matter. We're going to get a niche group of people that, believe in a certain mission and will utilize the product. But in the end, what it's going to look like is everyone's still going to use Facebook and Instagram. And then we're back into square one. And everything that we've tried, it's going to be difficult to change the habits of, right? So, that's kind of what makes me worry from that standpoint. It makes me question, like the adoption of Bitcoin is great and you see that, but it also took a lot of time, right? And it does take, just normally it takes a lot of time to break what people are used to. And so how can we change this? Well, I think we just need great innovations, great user experience, great points of, enterprise utilizing it and trusting it and figuring out how we can just get it in front of actual adoption. And that's adoption from the builders building products, from the users using the products, to enterprise and businesses and companies willing to invest into making these products and making it and normalizing it, right? And so I mean that's what we're really trying to figure out within the AI space as well. We have a few products such as shade agents, which is kind of private and secure via TEE to make agent to agent execution. We are working on an AI assistant to help you execute different aspects and trades and chores and things like that. There's like an AI cloud that we're working on as well to really help bring in all the different aspects of an agent or the AI stack overall that you don't need to be in Web3 to be pulled together, right? And so the difficult part is actually ensuring that everyone's willing to come in and do all this and have that standardization. For example, we worked on that standardization for AI with Coinbase on that because we think it's important. We need to have that community to work together in order for everyone to be on the same page. And I just think that's really hard.
Yeah, one quick point that you mentioned, I think we're all working on it, is standards. So having a consistency on looking ahead, groups like Global Blockchain Business Council, how do these things work? What are the frameworks? And then how is that going to show up in DC or in any policy discussion? Because if we can get a lot done in the next 2 to 3 years and put the baseline in place, that's going to help us out to get through the next hurdles.
I think for me, because we've been working with projects to launch the tokens, right? Fundraising, because we not just invest, we also do advisory. Even we build our own products. I feel like 90% of the manpower resources in crypto are really wasted on things and build nobody wants to use. I think that's the biggest challenge for crypto. I think the token is a amazing tool, but it's also for 90% of the time it's a really distraction. I think for me these are the most painful things to watch projects go through, founders have to deal with before they achieve product market fit. The reason why I want to give examples of use cases is because I just think technology should be serve use cases, and it's really, really not the approach we have adopted by this industry. Most of the technology we're looking for solutions. Looking for problems to solve. And I think it's extremely wasteful. The meme coins and the capital lost, and I don't know how to solve it. I don't think we can.
What about the end is like incentives?
It's
That I wish.
It's not in the end. It's you spend so much money on exchange, liquidity, marketing, like before you have a product. But I do think there are a few founders have demonstrated, whether it's Hyperliquid, whether it's Kaito, right? I think we're like another company we just recently spoken to, Nexon, which has had one of the biggest games in the world called MapleStory. They just launched a token, did really well, like yesterday. They didn't even need to raise money. They're just like, we really want to bring our IP to creators and game developers. We want them to use it. I do really believe in application-driven infrastructure. So I think maybe we can change the approach for the industry so we can move faster and waste less capital and bring actual applications, to users.
We're done? Okay. Thank you so much. I think that's all we have time for. Well, okay. Yeah, because you have to finish. Okay.
I'm going to give you a very, very fast hot take, which is that the biggest problem with AI is going to be that the knee-jerk reaction is to say all training data is stuff that AI companies should pay for. And that's a huge problem. If you want to have something like decentralized AI, you don't just want the big companies to be able to pay for AI. That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to the panelists.